All right, so part two of my experience with ayahuasca. If you didn't get to watch part one, I will link that in the description box. And I do recommend checking that video out first if you're going to watch this one, because kind of jumping in the middle here, but you do you. So I've already now sat in two ceremonies, and a year and a half goes by, and a lot changed in my life in that year and a half. I went through some major shifting of people in my life. Friendships ended that I didn't expect, like I wouldn't have thought, but I also kind of saw with clarity why that had to happen. And it was like for the first time in my life, truly, I was not depending on anybody else. And when I say depending on anybody else, I don't just mean like, financially taking care of myself or anything like that. I mean like I was only giving my energy to me, and I wasn't needing energy from other people. Like I wasn't needing attention or validation or people to fill my time and space. And I sort of was becoming very consciously aware of when people were doing that to me, like when they were using my time and my energy because they were uncomfortable with their own aloneness. And so, yeah, I just had a couple of like really interesting relationships that happened in that time that taught me a lot. And it was just a lot came up to like process and work through, and really starting to like pull all my energy back to me. That I would say was like the biggest thing that happened during that time, was like really starting to come into just my own sovereignty and like not needing anything from anyone else. So in December of 2022, I went to do ayahuasca again. And this time I took two of my students with me. So two of my yoga students came. And so it was exciting for me. It was nice for me to be able to bring people, and one of them had never done it before. And so that was an interesting experience for her to kind of take her into that. And so we go down to Joshua Tree, and this time it's in December, so it's kind of cold. And we sit in the ceremony, and I'm trying to remember like how this ceremony kind of began. What I will say, like from this ceremony in particular, this was the one of the five that I've done that was the most comfortable for my body. Like I actually felt like in this ceremony that I was able to just like bundle myself up in all of my blankets and my pillows and my coat, and I just kind of like laid down and just received. And that was, I think, the biggest lesson from this ceremony in particular, was like surrendering into my feminine energy and into my ability to be receptive and to just trust the experience that I'm having and let myself receive it. And so I basically was just taken on this just beautiful journey. Like I would really call this particular experience like an expansion of my third eye. Like I could tie each of these experiences to a particular chakra that I feel like I was working through in each one. And this one in particular was absolutely my third eye opening. It was unreal, like the beauty that I was shown. And I that was my entire experience in that ceremony, was just in awe of the beauty of the universe. And I like just kept asking myself, like, how am I going to bring this through me? Like, how do I become a vessel for this energy? How do I make it possible for other people to experience and see this within our reality, within our 3D reality? And actually, this shirt that I'm wearing, I made this after that ceremony, and this was, I was going to paint the tattoo. I painted the moth. But yeah, just the most beautiful like experience of seeing fractals and energy. And I felt like I was shown my energy frequency. I was like, I actually saw myself as a being of light, and I saw what my energy looks like. I don't really know how else to explain that. Like, and it was just so beautiful. It was really so beautiful. And I think that by this point, I was still like working through a little bit of illusion that was still coming up in my system that I still needed to process out. But all in all, it was just a really beautiful ceremony, like just really like all about what I was able to see and kind of awakening my senses in that way, and like connecting to like the artist within me and like my desire to kind of like be this vessel, even when it's just through speaking and sharing these experiences, or whether it's, you know, when I'm teaching yoga or Pilates. It's like I feel like I am letting myself step aside so that something bigger than me can move through me. And so after that, that was in December of 2022. um when was my next ceremony? So December of 2022, in that ceremony, I really started to feel like my dharma, like my really genuine sense of purpose and like my calling to something greater was like really coming through. And I felt like that was like the message that the medicine was giving me, was like to be open to that and to prepare for that. And so April of 2023, I went back, and some things had happened in my life in between that time. There had been another awakening moment for me, and a person that I had met who had awakened something in me. And so I was trying to like make sense of that and make sense of the place that I was in my life. And so I end up going again. And in this experience, this is where if you saw my last video, and I was saying that my fear of the masculine and what prevented me from going to my very first ceremony, that would come full circle for me. So this ceremony, the April ceremony, ended up being basically all men, except for like me and the shaman and my friend who came with me. And both of us, both me and my friend, both had like, we were aware that we had some healing to do around our relationship with the masculine. And so we're both like, oh my God, like this is our moment. We're being confronted with this. So it was basically all men and like us two. And I'm like, okay, well, this is obviously, I'm better prepared and equipped at this point in my life than I was 4 years ago to be in this situation. And I had, in those 4 years, done like massive amounts of healing around my relationship with the masculine. And so we sit down and we take our medicine or whatever, and I was hit like this particular ceremony came on so strong and so fast for me. So it was basically like, I really feel like it was like immediately I was confronted with this like dragon energy. And I think the dragon is like the perfect allegory for like facing your fears, because it was like when you're in it and you're like in your consciousness, in your mind, there's like this, the energy of a dragon can be scary, it can be confronting, but it's like you understand what I understood. What the message that the dragon was bringing me was that fear is just an illusion, that what is powerful and what is, you know, intense does not have to be frightening. That our fear of something is our perspective that we're holding around something. That doesn't mean that there's not reasons to legitimately be afraid sometimes, or that there's not danger or anything like that. But it's like fear in and of itself is our perspective. It's an illusion that we're holding on to. And so confronting that and just allowing, and I love dragon energy. Like that was one of the most beautiful moments of like just facing that and understanding that within myself. And this particular ceremony was really interesting because we started a little bit earlier. And normally when you do ayahuasca, when you sit in ceremony, it's dark, it's nighttime, right? And so if you do go outside, it's like the stars are out or whatever. This particular ceremony, the sun was still up when we started. And when we're inside the temple, it's, you can't see anything. There's no light coming in from outside. So like you could just stay inside and you would never have known that it was daytime outside. But the energy in this particular ceremony was really intense, really intense. And I think that this is, you know, this was part of my fear of like sitting in a ceremony with a bunch of men, is that masculine energy can be intense. It's they have different things that they're working on. Their collective is healing, you know, different things that involve, you know, anger that manifests in different ways. And just like the intensity of it is just different. Okay. And so I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the energy inside. I couldn't hold it. I just couldn't hold it. So I had to go outside. So I go outside and the sun is setting. And it's interesting that this was like my experience of like, you know, the energy inside, the masculine energy inside is so intense. But then I go outside and it's like the sun. The sun is the most masculine of all energies. And the intensity of the sun was just like pouring into me. And I felt like I was just like a lizard, like soaking, you know, on a rock, like just soaking in the rays of the sun. And I was just, all of these light codes were like pouring into me. And I was like being taken back to like ancient Egypt and all these things. And I'm just like, all this energy is just beaming down on me. And I'm just like, I literally felt like I just was like opened up from the top of my head, and the light of the sun was just like filling me up from, you know, head to toe. And then I realized at one point, I was like, I am just staring directly into the sun right now. Like, I probably should stop doing that. So they have a bunch of like beds and couches and places that you can sit outside. So I sit down, and I think I had thrown up. And so I'm sitting there and I have this little like bucket with throw up, and I'm just like, I'm feeling a little nauseous. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I'm like just sitting there like, oh my God, I wish someone would take this bucket away from me. Like I'm like, I need help. And this is like a big thing for me too in ceremony that always comes up, is that I don't ever want to be perceived as like a nuisance, or like I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want anyone else's experience to be like, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to. And so I'm like going through everything just completely alone because of that. Like I will never like let myself, you know, and so I try to like kind of work through feelings like that. And like, so I'm sitting outside and I'm just feeling helpless kind of. And this guy who was in the ceremony, who he wasn't even a guardian or anything, he was just a guy that was in the ceremony. He comes outside and he comes over to me and he's like, and it's not, you don't really talk, you're not supposed to like talk to other people really, but it's like, I think he could just see me, you know, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Can I help you? Like, do you need help?" And I'm like, "Can you please take this bucket away from me?" And he's like, "Yes." So he takes my bucket of vomit and like gets rid of it for me and like brings me a new bucket. And I think that that was like one of the most profound moments for me in that ceremony, because I just was like, I was like, men are good, you know, and from now on, and it brought up like so many memories for me of times that like men in my life like have just been angels to me and have taken care of me, and like, and how I've attracted in, like I'm able to attract in like these positive experiences with men, and that like that is possible for me. And it just made me realize like that I needed to focus on the good in men, and that I needed, that I needed to believe in them and believe that they were capable of um, stepping into their masculine energy, which is the energy of like being the provider, being the, you know, the action taker, or like the one that, you know, the acts of service. Like often that's like how men like express like their love language and stuff, because that is masculine energy at the end of the day. So allowing myself to hold space for that and to receive that and to call that in, and to not feel like I have to just go through it all on my own. So my body struggled a lot in that ceremony, and I think part of that was to do with the fact that I didn't really feel comfortable inside of the temple when things were like really intense, and so I kind of felt like I had to keep going back outside. And then when I was outside, I just wanted to be laying down, but my stuff was inside, and my pillows and my blankets. It was like this constant, like, not feeling comfortable anywhere, like not feeling fully like I was able to relax. And so I think that it just, and one of the intentions I had set for that ceremony also was to heal my body, and for my body to um, be prepared for the next chapter of my life and what I was trying to call in. And so I think that there was like definitely some discomfort and some purging and some things going on with that. So where are we? Okay, so that was pretty much my takeaways from that experience. And then 6 months later, so October of last year, which I believe was also an eclipse. So I think this we went and did this the weekend of the eclipse, which is kind of insane, but I love that for me. I'm like, go big or go home. I love eclipse energy. It's intense. It's like, it's going to bring up your shadow for you to look at and see. And then hopefully you're able to invite in the light from there, right? So we go, and this time I went with one of my friends who I've gone with before, and then also another friend who had never done it before. So we go, and I would say about this final ceremony that I've been to, I think that where do I even start with this one? I had a really intense experience of like understanding what my soul came here to do, and that that I am calling in partnership that can meet me where I'm at, and that we are meant to kind of go on this journey together, and that we have this mission together. And that just became like really clear to me through this ceremony, which was really beautiful. And I just came into some like really deep understanding of certain things that had happened and were happening, and that kind of gave me like some peace, where I sort of felt like I could surrender into the moment and allow, like, just trust in the process of what was unfolding in my life. And that's still something like to this day that I still struggle with. Like, I still have a hard time sometimes, like, trusting to just walk in faith um and just allow and trust that everything's going to fall into place, and everything's going to work out, everything's going to come into alignment in the way that it's meant to. And I do still struggle with that, just because the external world doesn't make it easy. Like, there's a lot of pressure from other people, a lot of like just pressure from the when you are living in a way that is counter to society's expectations and the norms of kind of like what is expected of you, it's always going to feel in a way like at certain moments you're paddling your boat up the stream. You know what I mean? But I I think that this last ceremony that I went to like did make it easier for me to let go a little bit and to just kind of let myself float. Um, and I also felt a lot of discomfort in my body in this last ceremony. And I think that that's a part of it also, it was a similar thing where I felt like it was too much of other people's energy for me. And so I'm kind of after like a year of like not having done it, I'm kind of at this place now where I think that maybe if I do it again, I would want to do like a private ceremony because or even just with like one person or something. But like I feel like I would like to experience the medicine and see what the medicine would like to bring through me without it involving the rest of the group, you know? Because, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that there's power in both of those things, and there's a time and a place for both of those things. Like it's kind of like, the group experience brings beautiful wisdom and the process of sitting and like ceremony and everyone sharing their experiences and the collective wisdom of it all and getting the opportunity to work through things like you know like how what the group experience brings up, whether it's the masculine and the feminine or whatever it might be. So I think that the group is great and I love the group, but I also think it would be really nice to experience it just on my own and see how my experience may be different when I can just focus on my own energy and I'm not kind of like feeling the presence of the group around me. So I think that that would be a cool thing to experience. So um yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to add from all of these experiences. Like overall, I would say that having sat those 5 times, every single time that I sat was like massively different in its own way. Like on a visual level, like the fractals and the visions and the things that I saw and the places I was taken and the energy of it all is just massively different from one experience to the next. It's never the same, and you never actually know how it's going to go. So like you can go in with intentions and you can go in with like what you kind of hope you would like to experience, but at the end of the day the medicine is going to kind of give you what you need, not necessarily what you want. And but the one consistent thing that I will say about it is that I always leave feeling so full of love, just love for life and gratitude for life, and like just in awe of like what humans are capable of and the love that we're capable of and what I'm capable of, and just seeing myself in as my highest self, I would say, is like one of my biggest takeaways from the experience every single time that I go. And like I see the ways that these experiences, like it's not just like a one and done thing. It's like the medicine continues to teach me daily, and I find ways to integrate the higher understanding because it's like so much. Like that's one thing I will say about this last time that I went. I felt like at one point my mind was open and this light code energy was pouring into me so fast that my conscious mind was like, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to process this. Like it's happening so fast, it's happening too fast. And it was like the medicine was just saying to me, like, just trust it. Okay. Like you don't need to be able to like regurgitate this all tomorrow, like trust that you are getting this and that it's going to come through you. You're going to process this and you're going to rise into this information. And like I have seen that over this past year. Like this past year has been like really a doozy on like a spiritual level, like an energetic spiritual level. But I do think that I've just been like preparing and integrating and processing and moving out all of the old frequencies that are, you know, not coming forward with me as I embody my highest calling and the next level of my purpose and my, you know, my highest self in a way. So yeah, I think that is where I'm gonna leave this video. Um, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and I will talk with you guys again soon.